Andrew had recently settled into his new apartment. It wasn't spacious, but it suited him perfectly, quiet and secluded from the city's relentless activity. He'd always valued a tranquil existence. The building itself was vintage, yet well-preserved, with cramped corridors and floors that creaked, lending it a unique character. The initial few days were unremarkable. Andrew busied himself unpacking, organizing his belongings, and familiarizing himself with the local area. He appreciated the peaceful ambience and didn't mind the solitude. He'd always been a private person. Yet, something about the apartment complex felt subtly unusual. It wasn't merely the age of the building or the odd nighttime sounds. No, it was his neighbor, Lyra. Her apartment was right next door. Andrew first encountered her on his second day while in the hallway. She was tall and graceful, with striking azure skin that shimmered under the light. Her eyes were a captivating shade of emerald, almost luminous, and her hair, or what Andrew presumed to be hair, was long and white, cascading down her back in delicate, silken strands. It resembled silk, but Andrew knew better than to speculate about its true nature. She was clearly different. Initially, Andrew dismissed her as just another eccentric resident. After all, he'd heard whispers of extraterrestrials and unusual visitors in the city. But something about Lyra intrigued him. She was reserved, and whenever their paths crossed, she seemed preoccupied, lost in her thoughts. It wasn't as if she was intentionally hiding or avoiding interaction, but there was an aura about her, an unspoken remoteness, that gave Andrew the impression she belonged to a world far beyond this one. Over the next few days, he observed her behaving even more peculiarly. Lyra would wander the building at unusual hours, her pace always hurried, almost frenetic, her eyes darting from one point to another. She was perpetually alone. Andrew hadn't seen her with anyone else. He wondered if she was merely shy or if something else was happening. One evening, after a long workday, Andrew decided on a stroll. The apartment building was hushed, and he thought it would be a good opportunity to clear his head. As he walked down the hallway, he heard a door open. He turned and saw Lyra standing there, her usual neutral expression fixed on her face. "Hi," Andrew greeted, offering a slightly awkward smile. "How are things?" Lyra stared at him for a moment, her green eyes sweeping over him as if she was unsure how to respond. Andrew felt uneasy under her gaze, though he couldn't pinpoint why. It wasn't hostility or even unfriendliness, it was just odd. "I'm all right," she finally replied, her voice gentle and almost musical, although tinged with an undefinable undercurrent. Andrew nodded, attempting to engage in small talk. "You seem busy. I haven't seen you much lately." Lyra hesitated before answering. "I've been preoccupied. Anything I can help with?" Andrew inquired, sincerely wanting to assist. He had no idea why, but he felt compelled to offer. Perhaps it was her appearance, as though she was burdened by something heavy, something no one else could comprehend. She regarded him intently for a long moment before answering. "It's nothing," she said quickly. However, Andrew sensed there was more to it. Her eyes seemed veiled, as though concealing something. "Okay," Andrew conceded, deciding not to press the matter. "Well, if you need anything, I'm right next door." Lyra gave him a small, almost forced smile before retreating into her apartment and closing the door. For the next few days, Andrew couldn't stop thinking about their brief encounter. There was something unusual about Lyra, something he couldn't quite place. It wasn't just her appearance, though that was certainly distinctive. It was her mannerisms, her way of speaking, and the sense that she carried a hidden weight. Then, one evening, as Andrew was leaving to get some dinner, he saw her again. This time, Lyra was standing tensely in the hallway, fixated on the wall, her hands clenched tightly at her sides. She looked as if she was battling with herself internally. "Are you all right?" Andrew asked, concerned. Lyra turned to him, her face momentarily pale. She didn't speak, but Andrew saw the desperation in her eyes. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. "What's going on?" Andrew asked, stepping closer. His curiosity was piqued, but his concern grew as well. Something was deeply amiss, something he couldn't ignore. Lyra took a deep breath, scanning the hallway as if to ensure they were alone. "It's my time," she said in a low voice. "I need a companion, or I will." "I will?" Her voice trailed off, sending a chill down Andrew's spine. He was clueless as to what she meant, but the desperation in her tone made it clear that it was something serious. "Your time?" Andrew asked, confused. Lyra nodded. "It's a vital part of my heritage," she explained, her voice barely audible. "I don't have much time left." Andrew froze, dumbfounded. He'd heard tales about extraterrestrials and their unusual practices, but this was different. He was at a loss for words. Lyra looked at him, her eyes pleading. "Please," she whispered, "I don't know what else to do." Zira hesitated for a moment, her gaze fixed on the sunrise. "I think I understand now," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I understand why the Bond chose you, Alex." Alex raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Why?" he asked. Zira smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "Because you're kind," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You're compassionate, and you have a strength that goes beyond just the physical. You're willing to help someone even when you don't fully understand what's happening, and that's rare." Alex felt a warmth spread through his chest. He hadn't thought of himself as particularly special, but hearing Zira's words made him see himself in a new light. "I'm just trying to do the right thing," he said, shrugging slightly. Zira stepped closer, her hand gently touching his arm. "It's more than that, Alex," she said, her eyes searching his. "You have a good heart, and that's what matters." A comfortable silence fell between them as they stood there, the sunrise painting the sky in vibrant hues. Alex found himself drawn to Zira's presence, the bond between them humming with a quiet energy. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about something more profound. Later that day, as they sat together on Zira's balcony, Alex felt a shift in the energy between them. The air crackled with an unseen force, and a wave of warmth washed over him. He looked at Zira, and her eyes were glowing with an otherworldly light. "Alex," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I think the bond is complete." Alex held his breath, unsure of what to expect. He felt a rush of emotions, a mix of excitement, fear, and something akin to wonder. He could feel Zira's emotions mirroring his own, their thoughts intertwining like the roots of two ancient trees. It was overwhelming, yet exhilarating. He reached for her hand, and as their fingers intertwined, a surge of energy flowed between them, solidifying the connection. In the following weeks, Alex and Zira's lives transformed. The bond had brought them closer than either could have imagined. They shared thoughts, emotions, and even dreams. It was as if they were two halves of a whole, finally reunited. Alex found himself understanding Zira's culture, her past, and her deepest fears. He learned about the struggles of her people, their search for a new home, and their unique connection to humans. Zira, in turn, learned more about Earth, about human society, and about Alex's life. She discovered the beauty of human emotions, the complexities of human relationships, and the resilience of the human spirit. The bond had not only saved Zira's life but had also enriched both of their existences in ways they never could have anticipated. Their relationship deepened, evolving into something that transcended the initial purpose of the bond. There was a tenderness between them, a mutual respect and admiration that blossomed into a deep affection. They spent hours talking, sharing stories, and simply enjoying each other's company. They explored the city together, marveling at the mundane things that Alex had once taken for granted. Zira's unique perspective on the world opened Alex's eyes to the beauty and wonder that surrounded him every day. He learned to appreciate the small things, the simple pleasures, and the importance of connection. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through a park bathed in the soft glow of twilight, Zira turned to Alex, her eyes shining with an unspoken emotion. "Alex," she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you. You saved my life, but you also gave me something far more precious." Alex looked at her, his heart swelling with emotion. "And what's that?" he asked softly. Zira smiled, a radiant smile that lit up her face. You gave me a home, she said, her voice barely a whisper. You gave me a place to belong. Alex's heart ached with a love he hadn't known he was capable of feeling. He knew then that their journey together had just begun, and he couldn't wait to see what the future held. The bond had brought them together, but it was their shared experiences, their mutual respect, and their growing love that would keep them connected, forever bound by something far stronger than either could have ever imagined. Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. He had no idea what she meant, but the desperation in her voice told him it was something serious. Mating season? Alex asked, confused. Lyra nodded. It's a vital part of my heritage, she explained, her voice barely audible. I don't have much time. Alex stood there frozen, dumbfounded. He'd heard stories about extraterrestrials and their unusual customs, but this was different. He was at a loss for words. Lyra looked at him, her eyes pleading. Please, she whispered, I don't know what else to do. Alex stood in the hallway, Lyra's words echoing in his mind, I need a companion or I will. The rest of her sentence had faded into silence, leaving a heavy tension in the air. He had never expected to hear something like that from her. Her quiet desperation was almost palpable, making him feel both concerned and uncertain. Lyra's eyes were wide, filled with fear, and she looked as if she was about to break down. Her usual calm and distant demeanor had vanished. Alex had always thought of her as someone self-sufficient, but now, seeing her like this, he couldn't ignore the fact that she was in real trouble. I don't understand, Alex said, his voice soft but filled with concern. What do you mean you need a companion? Lyra glanced around the hallway as if checking if anyone was listening. She stepped closer to Alex, her movements quick and deliberate. He could feel her anxiety radiating from her, and it made him even more uneasy. It's part of my species, she explained, her voice quiet, almost as if she didn't want to say it out loud. This time is critical for my kind. If I don't find a companion by the end of it, I won't survive. Alex's eyes widened. He had never heard of anything like this before. He didn't even know what kind of being Lyra was, but hearing that her life could be at risk if she didn't find a companion made his stomach twist with worry. You won't survive? Alex repeated, trying to understand. He'd read about alien species in books and seen movies, but nothing had prepared him for this. Lyra nodded slowly, her face pale and strained. It's the way it is in my culture. Without a companion, I won't be able to complete my life cycle. The energy that comes from a close relationship is necessary for my survival. Without it, she trailed off, the implication clear. Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. He couldn't imagine what it must feel like to know that your life was tied to something so strange and out of your control. He wanted to help, but the idea of being that person, the one who would help Lyra survive, was overwhelming. But I'm just human, Alex stammered, feeling awkward saying it, but it was the truth. He didn't know how he could help her. He wasn't sure he could even be the kind of companion she needed. He didn't even know what that meant. Lyra looked at him, her eyes pleading. That's what makes it different. Humans are unique to us. Your species has qualities that none of us have. Your energy, your strength, your emotions, they're something my people need. She paused, her eyes searching his. You could help me. Alex swallowed hard. He had never felt so unsure of himself in his life. He had never thought of himself as special, but Lyra was looking at him like he was the answer to her problem. A part of him wanted to run, to avoid the whole situation, but another part of him, something deeper, wanted to help her. I don't know what to say, Alex admitted. I don't know what you're asking me to do. Lyra took a deep breath, her shoulders sagging as if the weight of her situation was too much for her to carry. I don't know what else to do. I've tried everything else, but no one here understands. No one can help me except a human. She paused, her eyes filling with a mixture of hope and sadness. Please, Alex. I don't want to, to cease to be. The sunrise painted the sky in hues of orange and pink as Alex and Zira stood on her balcony, a comfortable silence settling between them. Zira, Alex began, hesitantly, I'm still trying to understand all of this. He gestured vaguely between them, acknowledging the strange, almost ethereal connection that had developed. Zira smiled, a genuine, reassuring smile that reached her emerald eyes. It's a lot to take in, I know, she replied, her voice soft but steady. But the bond, it's not something you can force. It takes time, trust. Alex nodded, absorbing her words. He had come a long way from the initial shock and confusion, but the idea of being so intimately connected to another being, especially one so different from himself, was still daunting. I'm willing to learn, he said, his voice firm, to understand what this means, for both of us. Zira's smile widened. That's all I can ask, she replied, her hand gently touching his arm. A shared understanding passed between them, a silent promise to navigate this new reality together. Later that afternoon, as they sat together in Zira's living room, surrounded by the soft glow of holographic projections of distant galaxies, the atmosphere shifted. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a palpable tension that made the hairs on Alex's arms stand on end. He looked at Zira, and her normally bright blue skin seemed to shimmer with an inner light, her emerald eyes almost luminous. Alex, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the soft hum of the projections, something's happening. Alex held his breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the energy building between them, a wave of warmth washing over him. It was the bond, intensifying, solidifying. He reached for Zira's hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, and as their skin touched, a surge of energy flowed between them, solidifying the connection. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming, a rush of emotions and sensations that left him breathless. In the weeks that followed, Alex and Zira's lives intertwined in ways neither could have anticipated. The bond had forged a deep connection between them, a shared understanding that transcended words. They could sense each other's emotions, thoughts, and even dreams, their minds linked in a way that felt both strange and comforting. Alex learned about Zira's people, their long journey across the stars in search of a new home, and their unique relationship with humanity. He discovered the beauty of their culture, their reverence for nature, and their deep respect for all living things. Zira, in turn, delved into Alex's world, fascinated by the complexities of human society, the nuances of human emotions, and the resilience of the human spirit. She marveled at the simple things that Alex took for granted, the beauty of a sunset, the joy of laughter, the comfort of a shared meal. Their bond deepened, evolving from a necessity for survival into a genuine affection. They spent hours talking, sharing stories, and exploring the city together. Alex showed Zira his favorite places, the bustling markets, the quiet parks, and the vibrant art galleries. Zira, with her unique perspective, opened Alex's eyes to the hidden wonders of his own world, the intricate patterns in nature, the subtle beauty of everyday objects, and the interconnectedness of all living things. They learned from each other, challenged each other, and supported each other, their bond a source of strength and comfort in a world that often felt chaotic and unpredictable. Their connection transcended the initial purpose of survival, blossoming into something far more profound, a shared journey of discovery and understanding. One evening, as they strolled through a park bathed in the warm glow of twilight, Zira stopped and turned to Alex, her emerald eyes shining with an unspoken emotion. Alex, she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude, I want to thank you. You not only saved my life, but you've given me something even more precious. Alex looked at her, his heart swelling with a mix of affection and wonder. What's that? He asked softly. Zira smiled, a radiant smile that lit up her face. You've given me a sense of belonging, she said, her voice barely a whisper, a place to call home. Alex's heart ached with a depth of emotion he hadn't known he was capable of feeling. He knew in that moment that their journey together was far from over, and he couldn't wait to see what the future held for them, bound together by a connection that was stronger and more meaningful than either of them could have ever imagined. Zira paused, a thoughtful expression on her face. I think I understand now, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I understand why the bond chose you, Alex. Alex raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Why? He asked. Zira smiled, a genuine smile that reached her emerald eyes. Because you're kind, she said, her voice soft but firm. You're compassionate, and you have a strength that goes beyond the physical. You're willing to help someone even when you don't fully understand, and that's rare. A warmth spread through Alex's chest. He hadn't considered himself particularly special, but Zira's words made him see himself differently. I'm just trying to do what's right, he shrugged slightly. Zira stepped closer, her hand lightly brushing his arm. It's more than that, Alex, she said, her eyes searching his. You have a good heart, and that's what truly matters. A comfortable silence fell between them as they stood there, the sunrise painting the sky in vibrant colors. Alex found himself drawn to Zira's presence, the bond between them resonating with a quiet energy. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about something much deeper. Later that day, as they sat together on Zira's balcony, Alex felt a distinct shift in the energy surrounding them. The air crackled with an unseen force, and a wave of warmth washed over him. He looked at Zira, and her eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. Alex, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I think the bond is complete. Alex held his breath, anticipation mixing with a touch of apprehension. He felt a surge of emotions, excitement, wonder, and a sense of profound connection. He could feel Zira's emotions mirroring his own, their thoughts intertwining like the branches of two trees growing together. It was overwhelming, yet exhilarating. He reached for her hand, and as their fingers interlaced, a powerful energy flowed between them, solidifying the bond. The following weeks transformed Alex and Zira's lives in unexpected ways. The bond brought them closer than either could have imagined, creating a shared intimacy that transcended the physical. They shared thoughts, emotions, and dreams as if their minds had merged into one. Alex gained a deeper understanding of Zira's culture, her past, and the struggles of her people. He learned about their search for a new home and their unique connection to humans. Zira, in turn, discovered the beauty and complexity of Earth, its diverse cultures, and the resilience of the human spirit. The bond had not only saved Zira, but it had also enriched both of their lives beyond measure. Their relationship continued to evolve, growing into something that surpassed the initial purpose of the bond. A deep affection blossomed between them, nurtured by mutual respect, shared experiences, and a growing understanding of each other's unique perspectives. They explored the city together, finding wonder in the everyday moments that Alex had once taken for granted. Zira's alien perspective opened his eyes to the beauty and interconnectedness of all things, teaching him to appreciate the simple pleasures and the importance of human connection. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through a park bathed in the soft glow of twilight, Zira turned to Alex, her eyes shining with unspoken emotion. Alex, she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. Thank you. You saved my life, but you also gave me something far more precious. Alex looked at her, his heart swelling with emotion. And what's that? He asked softly. Zira smiled, a radiant smile that lit up her face. You gave me a home, she said, her voice barely audible above the gentle breeze rustling through the trees. You gave me a place to belong. Alex's heart ached with a love he hadn't known he was capable of feeling. He knew then that their journey together had just begun, a journey bound not just by a mystical connection, but by a love as strong and enduring as the stars above.